top headlines that we are tracking from the world of commodities. But first up, let's put the spotlight on Brent crude. It is now trading near that $61.8 per barrel mark in the global market. Remember, today it is sitting with a cut of nearly 0.3%, but it ended 2.5% higher in trade yesterday. So that's how the global oil market setup is looking like. But remember, oil snapped its 4-day gaining streak today. It is sitting with a cut of 0.3%, as I mentioned, and US has maintained crude shipments blockade on Venezuela. It has already blocked 2 boats and it is looking to block the third one. So several shipments continue to remain affected in the global market. But despite that, Brent crude is sitting with a cut of 0.3%, although there are supply concerns in the global market. But shifting focus to precious metals then, gold is sitting with a surge of 0.7% today to trade near $4,500 per ounce mark in the global market. Silver too sitting at a fresh record high, up 0.4%, nearing that $70 per ounce mark. Remember, rising geopolitical tensions and expectations of rate cut in the United States in calendar year 2026 is leading to the up move. That has led to the up move all through this year, and that is likely to continue next year as well. So that's how the global market setup is looking like as far as the precious metals is concerned. But shifting focus to the global coffee market then, and global coffee prices, after rising in 2024, have cooled off a tad bit this calendar year. Arabica and Robusta coffee futures have hit multi-month low levels. This is led by abundant supplies and shifting trade dynamics and policies in the global market. But as we head into 2026, what is the outlook on coffee prices? And to discuss this, we now have Mr. Praveen Jaipuriar, CEO at CCL Products, now joining us. Mr. Jaipuriar, afternoon, and thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now. And first up, let's talk about coffee prices, because I was just seeing the graph, and in 2024 they shot up quite a bit, but they've moderated in 2025. What is your outlook on where coffee prices are headed in the next calendar year? And do you think oversupply in the global market will likely lead to lower coffee prices?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me here. Now, as far as the prices are concerned, you have seen that for last 3 years it has been quite volatile, and most of the predictions in the market have really not gone right. So very difficult to predict as of now where will the coffee prices settle. But the good news is that at least it has started to soften. And back to back, we have had good supplies first from Brazil in May, June, and now looks like that Vietnam supplies are also good. But we'll have to kind of, wait for a while to see if these trends are here to stay and stabilize, or will there be volatility again going forward? Considering that, in Vietnam, the Tet holidays are around the corner, and generally farmers have the tendency to offload some of their stocks before that. But if these prices kind of, hold the way it is right now, even after the Tet holidays, then I think we could see further softening going forward.
As far as the demand trends are concerned, I understand it is difficult to predict whether coffee prices could perhaps decline further next year. But what's the situation when it comes to demand in the global market, especially in the backdrop of changing trade dynamics, in the backdrop of changing policies that we are seeing, and also because of tariff tantrum? What kind of impact is that having on global demand? And then we'll talk about domestic demand environment as well.
See, largely the global demand remains intact, and that actually explains why the coffee prices have been such at high levels. Because generally, when the commodity prices rise, there is a tendency of consumption going slow. But that's not a phenomena that we have seen in coffee. The demand remains robust. Yes, policies and trade ties and all that, they lead to actually, fundamentally, they don't determine the demand levels. What they determine is the logistics issues that may come up, supply chain management issues that could come up. So that has been a challenge. But beyond that, we haven't seen any sort of a slump in demand, which also in a way is a good news, because as long as people are drinking coffee, it's good news for all of us.
Mr. Jaipuriar, if you can take us through the demand trends that we are seeing in the domestic market? I believe you export, but what is the situation when it comes to domestic market? And because of the surge in coffee prices in the global market, have domestic prices also moved higher in tandem?
Yes, they have. They have actually. Generally the coffee table actually kind of goes up and down together. So the domestic coffee bean prices also have been at quite a high level, which has led last 2 years. It had led to a lot of price increases. But the good thing that happened 2 months ago was the GST reduction in instant coffee. So from 18% it is now down to 5%, which meant that some of the price increases was offset by the reduction in prices due to GST cuts. So that's good news. At that point of time, we did experience some of logistics issues coming into play. But now things are settled. We are seeing good demand tick from both urban and rural markets. Festive season has led to a certain jump in the demand. The rural markets are responding well. So I think overall things are looking quite bright as far as demand in the domestic market is concerned for the future.
Okay, so demand in the domestic environment and the domestic market continues to remain solid. But Mr. Jaipuriar, since you and the entire industry exports coffee to the world, what kind of impact has Trump tariffs had on India's coffee industry?
So as I explained, initially there was some issues because India went into a 50% tariff regime, which meant that there were issues. People had to redo their prices or shift, sourcing. As far as CCL is concerned, we have the benefit of supplying coffee from Vietnam as well because we have our unit in Vietnam, which meant that it did not lead to a lot of disruption. But I think now things are going back to normal with some of the relief coming in the agri commodities, and coffee was part of it. So things are settling back again, and hopefully we'll see good times for Indian coffee growers and manufacturers alike in the future.
Good times ahead for the entire industry. But let's talk about the industry and for CCL products. Any kind of expansion plans that the company has or the industry has in terms of eyeing new geographies in the global market?
So yes, we have already finished our expansion. Last year, we almost kind of completed doubling our capacities. So from almost 40,000 metric ton, we are now at 77,000 metric tons. And this was done keeping in mind the future growth prospects that we are looking at, of which new market certainly is one of our growth drivers, and that will continue to push forward. But as of now, our capacity expansion is done, and for the next 3-4 years, we are good to drive our growth.
So for now, you're saying, telling us that your capacity expansion is done and dusted. But since we are talking about global market also, which geography is aiding most demand for India's coffee exporters?
Uh, So there are two, I divide the globe into two parts. One is the, high coffee consuming regions, which is America and Europe. So these are, regions which consume a lot of coffee, and these continue to be, very lucrative areas for Indian exporters. But having said so, these markets are, mature markets, which are not driving growth. Yeah, the second part of the globe, which is the developing economies, which is the Asian economies, largely countries like China, India, Southeast Asia. These are countries which are growing, and also convert a lot of their population is converting to coffee. These traditionally have been tea drinking regions, and some of these regions are going to drive coffee consumption in not only in the coming years, but decades to come. So that's also a good pattern that is emerging in this industry. So for Indian manufacturers, I think both the American and the European markets, which are big markets but are not growing, and the growing markets like the Asian markets, the Middle East, and I'm sure very soon African markets will also join the trend. These are the markets which will drive growth, and we'll be keenly watching these markets in the future as well.
So, Asia and Africa will perhaps drive growth for India's coffee exporters going forward. Mr. Jaipuriar, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now and helping us understand what the fall in coffee prices in the global market means for India's exporters. Thanks so much for joining us today. But shifting focus to our next segment, did you know? And we will put the spotlight today on world's most expensive metal, and that is californium. That, remember, is the most expensive metal in the world because it is man-made, radioactive and extremely rare. It is produced only in a few nuclear reactors in microgram quantities. 1 gram californium actually costs over 27 million US dollars, which is more valuable than nearly 200 kilograms of gold. Californium has critical use in nuclear science and medicine, and that clearly is the most expensive metal in the world. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Commodity Central, but don't go anywhere. Newsroom will come up next.